I'm Bob Brill. He's Eric Kramer. Welcome to Kramer and Brill, an NFL podcast and videocast. Each week, we take a look at what's going on in the NFL. And during the season, we analyze your fantasy picks. Well, this week, we're looking at the NFL landscape and how it's changed over the past few weeks. My esteemed colleague is former NFL quarterback Eric Kramer, who provides his valuable insights to the whole process. Now, you can join us each week by finding the podcast wherever you get your shows. And for the videocast, just check out my Bob Brill YouTube channel. Easiest way to go directly to our website. That's kramerandbrill.com, kramerandbrill.com. All the links are right there on the homepage, plus our past shows. So let's get right to it. There's never been an NFL offseason where there's been such a wholesale movement of players from one team to another. Coaches the same, two quarterbacks retired, one unretired. A total of at least seven quarterbacks are with new teams, making eight now. At least a half dozen big name wide receivers are with new teams, and that doesn't even address the myriad linemen, defensive players, and kick returners. So let me just throw out some names who are with new teams: Russell Wilson, Robert Woods, Matt Ryan, Tyreek Hill, Deshaun Watson, Devontae Adams, Carson Wentz, Amari Cooper, Jamison Crowder, Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster, DJ Clark, Mitch Trubisky, Marcus Mariota, Christian Kirk, and this only touches on doesn't even touch on the hundreds of names who signed with new teams or were traded. So my question to you: is this the new normal?
Yeah, I think it's great too, by the way. I think the fact that as we've been going all along think back throughout the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years, how the draft wasn't anything special, right? Now, every team who gets it, every city who gets it, it's like having a mini Super Bowl. Um, and the offseason has now, ever since free agency developed, which was back in 92, now it's become its own frenzied time of year, the draft, etc. So coaching movement, player movement, rule changes, it's great because it never ends.
The landscape's really changed drastically, and because the AFC West, where Russell Wilson joins the Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, and Mahomes, and the AFC North, where you have Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. And now you throw a new quarterback in there. He may not be the greatest thing, and he's not my favorite, Mr. Trubisky. So does that make those two divisions somewhat of the lead horses around the NFL?
I think you're jumping the gun on the AFC North, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because Deshaun Watson's, first of all, going to become his own circus. So that whole team, the organization on down, from the people at the top to, most importantly, not only the coaches, but the teammates are going to have to start. They're going to take on Deshaun Watson questions. How's Deshaun Watson? How in the hell is he going to be a leader on a team where if I was on his team, I'd be talking about you? I don't get that. How that's going to happen. We're not out of the woods there yet. The Trubisky thing, as you know, that is this far from being a failure. I mean, it already was a failure once. It's not going to be again. What did he do in Buffalo other than sit on the bench and run the scout team? Nothing. So I'm not sold on Trubisky. He had one good year, and when I say he really didn't have a good year, the year they went 12-4, he's never been good. His mechanics aren't ever going to allow for that to happen. Period.
Yeah.
And
I'm with you on that. I mean, I love all the Steeler changes so far. I mean, Miles Jack and the offensive lineman, they beefed that up, picking up the wide receiver kick returner from New England, because they lost three wide receivers. They lost Washington, Smith, and they also lost Ray McLeod, who was the kick returner. I love all those changes. I just am not loving this one. I mean, I'm one of those people who says, okay, give Mason Rudolph a real chance to be the guy. And if it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. You only lost a year.
I don't think they're done, by the way, by acquiring Trubisky. I think Kenny Pickett, who you liked all along, is
Right.
a lot of people, me included. I think he's still a real possibility, as are, anybody else they might draft.
Malik Willis is out there too.
Whatever. I'm just saying, I don't think Trubisky was brought on to be their final guy. I just don't think that's going to happen.
So, what were the most shocking of the signings or trades that are in your mind?
Well, at first, it was Khalil Mack getting traded. I thought, wait a minute, this is their best defensive player, maybe the best player, other than Akeem Hicks. But he's aging. He was injured quite a bit not only last year but the year before, and he's got a huge contract that they helped get rid of. And then also, He's only got what, 1 year left on it, so
Yeah.
he's going to be the next year demanding a bunch of money. And so I think it's a great move amongst a lot of great moves in the early going that Poles and Eberflus have made in saying to Chicago, "Hey, there's a lot wrong with this roster. We need to get a lot right with it in a number of ways. We need to acquire draft picks, which we didn't have very many to begin with. Then we've got to free up some cap space, which we didn't have a lot of to begin with." And so I think they're making very calculated and specific moves, which I guarantee you to the people of Chicago in the last 50 years, maybe ever, have never seen. I think this is a welcome transition. And so that was the first one that shocked me but only to wake me up to see that I think falls right in line with what they've done so far.
You know, all the stuff that's happening out there right now. I mean, that doesn't even count the guys who are still out there, which are now Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, and a decision on what the Niners are going to do with Jimmy G. I think the most curious of which is Baker Mayfield, who I know you have never been high on.
Well, and I think a lot of people have been high on him. I think the Browns were the only team that was ever. If the Browns were not drafting number one, I'm not sure he would have been picked, certainly in the first round, for what? And he's over the course of how many years has it been? What, 4 years now? I mean, that's added up to a lot of successful things like, oh, this guy takes over a game, or he just does simple things well over a period of time that add up to successful quarterback play. It's not happening. No one's ever going to. And so that's not a shock to me that he's not picked up so far. I don't think he may go this whole season and not get picked up. We'll see. But I think, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you want to stick to the quarterbacks, fine. But I think Russell Wilson was a slam dunk. I think to me, stands out. George Payton, who was in Chicago when I was there in the personnel department, I think this is a great move, great calculated move that he made that just leapfrogged the entire league into Denver now becoming a legit Super Bowl contender.
I think you're right there, and getting back to Mayfield, I think the fact that at the time the Browns had the riches. I mean, how many first round draft picks did they have? They had a bunch of them, and seconds. And I think it was just like spoiled, and they went in that direction. But there are a couple other moves which could prove to be really significant. Ronald Jones to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs also signed Green Bay's Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Marcus Mariota to the Falcons, which kind of is, I don't know, I see that as a stopgap measure too. And Von Miller to the Bills. Now that's just a big deal. And then you got Noah Fant to the Seahawks. Those are what might be considered secondary moves, but each and every one of them could be really significant.
Here's the move of the year, if you ask me. The Tyreek Hill trade to Miami. Because you've got probably, well, undoubtedly, the fastest guy in the league, the most explosive player, the guy who can take over a game, but they can also disappear. And they got a boatload of picks for him, cleared cap space at the same time. And that's kind of like what the Dallas Cowboys did back in the 90s when they went from being an average team to the team. And that's what I think Kansas City just did.
That was the big trade for Herschel Walker. They picked up all those picks, and they went from 1-15 to back-to-back Super Bowls and contending every year till Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones couldn't get along anymore.
That was only a short run of what, 5 years?
Yeah, Aikman, Smith. I mean, they just Irvin. It was just that great team. So most improved. Who do you think is really most improved over there? You mentioned Kansas City. You mentioned Denver. Indy has got to be in there. Maybe the Bears. Where do your thoughts lie there?
That's a great question. I think by the end of the season, which is really when it counts, I think the team that's going to have taken the biggest leap is going to be the Chiefs, because you're going to have all these draft picks. You're going to have a lot of strategic moves between now and then in terms of the draft and leveraging picks and moving up, moving down. And I just think that the team that was already great is now going to be separating themselves from the pack, whatever little pack that was that they were in, which would have included Buffalo and in the AFC, I'm trying to think, Buffalo and who else is there that is up there already? Maybe this
Well, Miami's made some great strides. Miami's looking pretty good right now.
maybe so, but I wouldn't put them in that category.
Yeah.
And so anyway, yeah, I think they've really done a great job of separating themselves from Buffalo, from Cincinnati, and I think the goal for them is always going to be to get the Super Bowl, and I think they've got the coaching staff to do it, the organization, and the roster to do that, and they're deep.
Speaking of coaching staffs, Brian Flores ends up in Pittsburgh, and Bruce Arians calls it quits, and Todd Bowles is the new head coach there. And about 5 weeks ago, we had one black NFL head coach, and now we got 6. So, and the rule changes. Before we get the pick on the way down, I want to talk about the rule changes because there have been some, especially with the overtime. And I think this overtime rule is something that was forced upon them. They had to do something with, because how many games went to overtime, especially playoffs games in this last season? It was just ridiculous.
Here's the thing, is that this is a issue for 32 people. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the owners. And so if you're an owner who has stacked your team offensively, you want the overtime that your team gets to have the ball again. There's the idea, too, that defense wins championships. Overtime is part of every game. Regular season, playoff, Super Bowl. You could go that direction. You could stack your team where defensively you win games and championships, which you would want. You stop someone, you win, period.
Yeah.
That's all you have. If this goes back to the, what if Buffalo had a chance to, Buffalo's defense had a chance to win that game. Their head coach is a defense coordinator. They could have done that too.
You have to come down to the fact that, 10 out of 12 games were decided by the team that won the coin flip. Do you really want to play 18 weeks and all these games and playoff games and everything to have the decision of your team going to the Super Bowl decided by a coin flip? You can't have it. I just don't see it. I think this is a good rule.
It's not a coin flip. That's the mistake you're making. You have a defense out there too. Some owners decide, I'm going to stack. Let's take the Dallas Cowboys, who just got paid offensively. Dak Prescott.
Yep.
So guaranteed, Jerry Jones wants this extra overtime to go one more time to their offense if they lose a toss. Mm-hmm. Pay your defense. Get a great defensive coach. Try that and stop somebody. And then have your offense go in and have your quarterback make good decisions and get the ball to the right guy. And you kick a field goal or score a touchdown. How about that? Like, play the game the way the game's meant to be played without changing the rules to suit your team.
I don't know. I still go back to the 10 out of 12 games decided by the coin flip as far as the offensive team got it and the defensive team never got a shot for it. So we'll have to leave that at that. Unless
we have a relationship not unlike a marriage. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree. And I will forever disagree with you on this matter.
Okay, well,
we'll see. Most of America.
We'll see if this has to go to the regular season, which might be a better experiment for the coming year, but they didn't do that. So on the way down, now what teams if you look at the NFL landscape and how we've mentioned wholesale changes, what team is on the way down now?
Well, let's see. A team that could have been up or that was up that may be on its way down now, I think I'd say the Browns really haven't done much, in my opinion, to be going up.
What about the Packers?
The Packers really could be going down because they lost Devontae. They lost 3 out of their 4 receivers, right? St. Brown, Scantling, and Devontae Adams, who, if you just took away Devontae Adams, that would be a lot.
Yeah.
Now you've got 3 guys that are all gone. And so that's another one. Like I like the dynamic of what's going on right now, quite honestly, in terms of what the Bears are doing and what Green Bay is not doing.
Yeah.
And for the guy that said, I own you, do you really?
Well, I'll make one more comment here. The team I that I love to hate, I think has made some great improvements. That's the Las Vegas Raiders.
I agree with you.
I
There's a
think
team
they
going
have
up,
made.
and made
I,
it happen quick.
I think you have to look at probably the Super Bowl. One of the AFC Super Bowl champion will come out of the AFC West. I hate to say that because my team is in the AFC North, but I have to wait and see. That'll do it for another edition of Kramer and Brill. Don't forget to join us next time wherever you get your shows and on my Bob Brill YouTube channel. And for easiest way to do it, just go to www.kramerandbrill.com and everything's there for you. Just click on the link for either the podcast or the video cast, and we'll see you next time.